It hits again. Kevy, he's done it one more time.
The Chaos Storm! Claire jumps in with the Grand Slam! But in a three-man Moonfall, and it's just lights out for Direwolves, just like that.
The showstopper. Look at the backline. It's getting melted.
Something right now. Sonic Wave is there. It's getting low and low. Oh! But they've stolen it! Mammoth have got the Baron. He's gonna fall on down. It's just too much damage. Rest in peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's week 2 here at the LCO, and boy, I'm excited and also sweaty because it's about 50 bloody degrees here in Sydney today here in Australia, and my God, it's hot. But it's not going to be the only thing making me sweat. We've got a whole bunch of sick games coming up, but not before we refresh your memories of what happened last week.
Depth charge goes out, locks in place here with the zap afterwards. Chrono Shift comes out nice and early, going to Gale falls in for the execute in a 1v4 situation. Flash away underneath the tower. Thomas Shen connects. Oh, baited by the summon hill. He turns around and gets the kill. Transproc is there. He's lived a little bit too long. He's somehow defied death when it really should not have happened. He's found himself a double kill from the grave. Look through. Up rocks the TK. But he's realised, I'm surrounded by far too many members. Out comes the Devour. Bear in mind, this is not 12.2, so there isn't an extra boost of movement speed just yet. So he is still lagging behind and falling on down. Can Ray survive? He cannot. It's a consolation prize, and that is a huge shutdown. They're hunting for the ace. They are hunting for, which is what they really, really need. But how much do they do in the meantime? Great Gale force away to prevent the insect. Rogue might be the one that falls on down for it. Locks them in place. Prater for Bassett, that fall from final shot, but just getting right-clicked.
Some big games last week to kick off the LCO, and we've got a whole bunch of fresh ones coming through and some fresh faces, some guys that also, I believe, were sweating pretty hard and also to get into the action. It's Skimmy and Rusty. You know them, you love them, and they're looking pretty smooth today. Skimmy, how are you feeling? You told me you had a coffee earlier, you were caffeinated, but also it threw you off.
Yeah, no, look, honestly, I don't think I need any more energy in my life. Otherwise, I really will be bouncing off the walls. It is sweaty, it is hot, but I think I might have got the house gap. I've actually got AC literally right above me, so
nice.
I think I found the best spot in the room.
Good place to sit. Now, Rusty, what about you? How you feeling? You dealing with the heat okay, or what?
Listen, 2 meters to my right is very nice. 20-degree temperature. Where I'm sitting is between lights, just stuck in the middle of a desert. It's not great.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the shirt on just for that reason. No long sleeves today, like Skimmy, who can get away with it with the aircon on Mac. But we'll get it done. We'll get it done.
Look, I did hear that Twitch chat were asking to see you and your tattoo at some point. So maybe it's the days today where you take that shirt off. Who knows? TOS might have something to say about that. But also, let's have a look at the standings, where the teams are going into week 2, day 1 of games. Peace and the Chiefs both up top, undefeated for the moment, 2-0, and then that stack of 4 in the middle, all 1-1 with Gravitas and Mammoth 0-2. And I believe they are going to be going head-to-head either this week or next, so we'll see that start to separate. But for the moment, anything to say about this, Skimmy, going into week 2?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Peace being at the top there, you'd imagine that Pensnet were the ones going to come out and clinch that perfect 2-0 to go toe-to-toe there with the Chiefs, like these power rankings, but credit where credit is due, right? They clearly had a game plan going into the mid-late stages and were able to take down Pensnet and perhaps, capitalize on some of those communication issues. Elsewhere across, I don't think there's too many upsets or points of confusion just yet. I don't think we're going to start to really see any separation until, say, week 3.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun week just to see where that standing, where the leaderboard rather looks at the end of the next couple of days. Rusty, anything to say about the standings where they currently are?
Really, I was just going to say along the same lines, right? It's good for Peace to have the 2-0 start, but at the same time, is anyone surprised that Pensanet.gg are in the middle of the standings early on? They certainly prefer the run, not to stay at the top. I'll say that much.
Yeah, a bit of a slow starting team, I did hear. You know, people said that off stream. Either way, we've got a couple of games coming up today, 4 to be exact. So let's have a look at what those games are going to be. Kicking things off at 6 p.m. We got Order going up against Kanga, both 1-1 apiece. So that's going to change after today. Direwolves and Peace going head-to-head. I feel like Direwolves, there is a world where they can make this one happen, but Peace last week looked so damn good. 8 p.m, Chiefs and Gravitas going mono-a-mono, and that looks like it's probably going to be a bit of a bulldozer with 9 p.m. Maybe a similar situation, unless Gravitas and Mammoth pull something out of the bag, Skinny.
Yeah, but I've heard them on that social media post before saying, you know, don't underestimate us, we can upset anybody, which is true in a way. Perhaps there are metas that go by, champions that get updated, and pocket picks that get unveiled, but I think you're looking at those two bangers at the end to be a fairly one-sided affair. I think game number 1 is the one to start off the show very strong. Should be a very, very even match, but I think game 2 could be slightly underrated. I think Direwolves, you know, they are still that very young, hungry team. They're not going to be a team that I'd imagine will be pushed over easily.
Yeah, and look, with Peace and Chiefs both tied first, I think with that Direwolves game up against Peace, maybe there's a chance of an upset and that changing. I feel like that's probably the only place I'd be looking to stop that from happening and going to the 3-0 blowout. Rusty, anything to say before we move on?
Yeah, no, I'm most excited for game 2, so I'm glad that was actually brought up. For me, it's actually a really important test again for Zoranus. We'll get into it as the games, of course, start, but a big day for Direwolves in my eyes.
Oh, and also we need to point out that we were lied to on the broadcast. Zoranus was not in fact calling from the top. So that's happened, and someone's going to be getting a big old smack because they're lying to us. Who lied? Was it Kiyose?
Yeah. We'll put it down to nerves.
I think so,
That was what we were told.
But hey, that was the hot topic on every podcast under the sun here in the LCO. Everyone's like, top laner? Shot calling? How? Yeah.
Crazy. And I'm glad that we got that one sorted. Now, let's move into talking about the patch notes because it's a new week, but we're jumping into 12.2, and there's a whole bunch of things going on here. So I feel, look, Rusty, I'm just going to throw this one to you because there's a lot on this screen.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch of changes in this patch, but only really a couple of things that we have to talk about, you would say, from this list. The first one of those being Samira. So Samira's seen some changes where her Q now applies a slow, and Glacial wasn't really pickable for her anymore. So they've effectively given her the rune that she would Senna, the rune that she would prefer as a keystone, just like based in her kit now. So Senna actually crops up as a very viable option for this patch. She does get nerfed immediately on 12.3, so we'll have to keep that in mind. But this is definitely the Senna patch that we have to look towards and see if she's going to get picked, which actually brings up my next champion, which is the Tahm Kench. Tahm's seen some changes, kind of veering him away from top lane more to support. And Senna is actually one of those best ADs that you'll see coupled with tanks as a starving AD carry option. So ADs will play the Senna, they'll sit there and watch as their supports farm their lives away. You've got, Drag who's playing the Tahm Kench, you've got Galio that's a pick with it, a few options down there. So there's just something to keep your eyes on. And the third one for me, just while we're on this list, is definitely Janna. The changes to Janna being the Tornado primarily above all else. The shield and heal power that comes from being able to hit a W or a Q is really nice, but the speed with which that Tornado just comes flying at you now almost removes the ability to dodge it if you're not actively ready to. It's so fast, and I genuinely think that brings Janna into the meta, at least for this patch. She is pretty insane to deal with.
That's insane. And quickly before we move on, Skimmy, I see Lulu got nerfed, and she was a main reason why we saw a lot of that hyper carry bot lane going on last week. Do you think we're going to see that change this week?
Yes and no. I think we still see it be the front runner across global standards. Whimsy, an extra second, not the real end of the world, but I think Giant can certainly barge away into the conversation. Typically runs Glacial, go into Resolve Tree, extra shield power, coupled with the fact that if you do see somebody, your Ida Storm gets even stronger, right? So you could make a case that they're both going to be these big shield bots with outplay potential, but I think in a diving meta, what do you prefer, Wild Growth or Monsoon? Seems to be the big talking point, and it feels like Lulu is still the 12.2 king.
Very true. And speaking of 12.2, more changes to the items though. So let's have a quick look at what's going on here. Lichbane, Turbo Chem Tank, and Rylays all having a little bit of a change now, Skimmy.
Yeah, Lichbane, quite exciting one, right? A bit of ability haste put back into the fold of things. The biggest one for me has to be the Spellblade effect. You could proc it once every 2.5 seconds before, now every 1.5. So you could probably cycle through 2 core abilities very early on and really output a serious amount of damage. You're most likely going to see this on champions like the Victor as well as the Twisted Fate. I don't really see it being placed anywhere else just yet. Obviously, Turbo Chem Tank, that was the one-off hot topic and discussion of 12.1 brand new patch. Akali said, hey, this is looking a little bit exciting. I don't really get punished for it, and they've toned it down a little bit. They've capped how oppressive it can be of all those dashes, jumps, and free damage, but we have still seen globally Akali tend to go towards this build. Maybe not as much as beforehand, but Rylai's been the final one. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be the most common item. I think the only one that really springs to mind if you're talking about mid laners right now seems to be Azir, but perhaps Rusty, a nice quality of life change.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is that both Lichbane and Rylai's have been changed for just the champions that want to use Lichbane and Rylai's, right? Like, re-adding ability haste is actually really important for like Kayle even jumps up on that list of champions that may want to use it. Twisted Fate suffers a lot from not having enough damage in his build at the moment, where if you're able to bring Lichbane back into the mix, suddenly Twisted Fate can do damage, is more flexible, maybe even higher priority again. Similar thing with Rylai's, right? It was just a very underwhelming item that now anyone that can use it will be happy with the changes. Just a little bit more for it, particularly even things like a Vladimir, right, that wants to be health stacking.
Yeah.
And Chemtank's the one change here that is genuinely just because it was a little bit too strong. And now that it's working against, I believe it's damage dealt as to how you stack it, it does make it a little bit harder for those tanks who were abusing it, like the Hecarim that was just going tier and then Chemtank and running around the jungle like a madman.
Yeah, like that one game I played last week. Now, of course, the jungle has been changed slightly, as well as one of the runes. So let's have a look at this, because Chemtech, we loved him, but now it's gone. Disabled for the moment, Rusty.
Yeah, and Chemtech Drake being disabled, in my eyes, is a very good decision by Riot. I actually think that statistically it was a little bit too strong. What it actually provided for the game as a concept, it was cool, but it just wasn't balanced enough for, like, I guess for competitive to be super comfortable having it there. It was definitely going to continue to warp the competitive landscape. I think it's a great call by Riot to just disable that one for the time being.
Yeah.
The Hextech Drake it's a small change. It was a very high performing Drake, and I like that they're trying to just bring it back down. I like the Hextech Drake concept overall, including the map design. And for Lethal Tempo Mac, the interesting thing is that it's still really good, but it was a little bit too good level 1 for a lot of champions. Even like, you know, the Yasuos that aren't meant to do anything level 1, suddenly they're all-inning you and being successful just because it's too broken. So I like this change, the fact that it's scaled.
Yeah, you didn't want those Yasuos scaling too early on, but now at least the Rift is safe again for my bronze-ranked games. Now, that brings us one step closer to the game, but before that, we do have from the fans. This week, we asked you to send in some cool memes, some sick things. Oh my God, this is the first time seeing this graphic. Look at him go. Where's that from? Is that from first split finals last year?
It looks like it, eh? When we actually got a chance to hang out.
Yeah, the one doing the numbers. Yeah, that's Rusty usually. He's a numbers guy. Now, are you the next memester of the LCO? Do you have more karma on Reddit than LP and solo queue? I definitely do. Post your freshest memes on Twitter using the hashtag LCO to have your memes rated by the talent. Also at LCO, because sometimes they might miss them as well. You know, we do love our social media guys though, so go send them some love. But I believe we already have one of our big spenders, big viewers coming in clutch with a meme nice and early, and that's your boy Daran Taris. Who would win, Skippy the Buff Kangaroo or some purple star boy? Skimmy, who wins?
Probably Skippy, because I mean, Skippy the Cereal's pretty strong in my eyes. Certainly gets you, you know, the wake-up call that you need to start off the day strong. He looks buff. I actually saw an Instagram short before of the most Australian video I think I've ever seen, where a kangaroo's just having it out in the outback, and old mate just walks up to him and gives him the left-right good night. And I thought, you just wouldn't see that anywhere else in the world. I'm sure like a European American is looking at going, how on earth are Australians built? It's crazy.
It's so true that you wouldn't see it anywhere else, because kangaroos are only in Australia. It's a good point.
True.
In saying that, we don't know what the purple star boy is made of. So that's really my question there. Because you know that kangaroo is a big buff man that you don't want to mess with unless you're an Australian, but the star boy's got some potential.
Getting right up close, just having a quick look there, and I feel like, look, his trap's a little bit fake. His biceps were teeny, but the triceps were more than 90% of his arms. I don't know what's going on there with this kangaroo and why he isn't doing his bicep curls or any pull-ups. He's just jumping everywhere. But I'm sure his quad's going to be absolutely insane, impeccable. Now, that brings us to the matchup, of course. So, who is going to win? The purple starry boy in order or the big jacked kangaroo? I guess we'll find out once we jump in, but let's talk order first. Skimmy, tell me why you love him, why you want to see him, and what they're going to do to win today.
I mean, they're just filled with so much star power, aren't they? That was sort of the main talking point going into week one. You're looking at carries in multiple lane positions. Yeah, I think for me, it's an exciting time. They went right out the gates up against Chiefs and took it to our longest game so far. Whilst at times you could say it looked a little bit reactive from them, despite them having all those kills, I still think they had some very solid foundations, had some avenues to show some comeback potential. And they have shown us two very different styles of play so far. I think you look at game one, or actually game one against Chiefs, and it was like, you know, displacement, Gragas, Lee Sin, Alistair, anything to try and find those picks. But this game for me really says it all. The complete flip of the script, a triple range poke comp. Once it got a slight sniff of being ahead, it was so hard, as you can see here, for Gravitas to come back. Unbelievable kill count score, and just damage like you would not believe. Certainly a team that aren't afraid to flex their different identities and have the ability from the players themselves to say, we can play poke, we can play engage, we can play kill. You know, we aren't a bread and butter.
I would like to play kill more often. I think I can definitely watch some of these VODs, watch these replays and learn a thing or two. Could also learn something from Kanga though, and Rusty, tell me, what could I learn from this lineup?
You could learn a lot from Kanga. You could learn how between days they improved massively and that they were definitely shaky at the very start, but they didn't let that affect them too much, right? You're looking at Direwolves, sorry, not Direwolves, Order and Kanga. They were playing some tough games and they were playing some easy games in their first week, right? Kanga actually lost their first one to Direwolves, which is why I bring that up. But they looked very clean in their second game against Gravitas, which unfortunately for Gravitas, they've copped the L in both of these teams that are playing today's week one. But Kanga looked a lot cleaner between days, and if you have to really think about why I liked their comp first of all, and what they were able to bring about, they felt like they had much more control through top lane as well. This was the Direwolves game that Kanga looked convincing in. And to say the least, Liv put a gap on in top lane against Zoranus, but only is the person who I think stole the show. And the thing with Kanga, this will be a narrative, Mac, for the entire split, it feels like, is do they actually have star power, or do they just have star players? Okay. And I think the answer to that is that if Only continues to improve and perform, they do have star power, not just star players, and that's what I'm looking at.
Well, it's all about getting that chemistry work and all about, you know, playing together for long enough that you really don't need to talk as much. You just let it all flow out. Now, I am very familiar with all of these Kanga players, but you guys at home might not be. So, Kanga sent in a video to introduce them to you.
That is a dead Leona. Now, can we find any more? Can we find that GG condition? Another hook from Lionel. He is Messi. He is the GOAT. He says you can be bull gods, but I can land hooks too. And just like that, Kanga get their first victory of the split.
One word to sum up my team, like not in game, anime. Lived loves anime. Maboma loves anime. They like, I see them in the Kanga Discord chat, duo queue watching anime, like every night. I love anime, so that's 3. Chungy has an anime like DP on Discord.
I mean, it's a bit unfortunate actually, because Chungy, he's the only one on the team that doesn't watch anime. So he's like the odd man out. We're all trying to get together, watch some anime, have a good time, but he doesn't want to watch. That makes me very sad. It would be a good bonding experience, especially what's going on with Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan at the moment. Get some goddamn bonkers stuff, so I'm depressed about that, but other than that, I think everyone gets along pretty well. Limas is like completely new as well. He's like probably the best Draven player on the server, so you know, that's probably pretty unique. No one else can probably play Draven as good as him.
I just like the players, the people that I play with, my teammates. I think they're my favorite thing about the team. Like, we have a great environment in the team. The teammates are really easy to get along with, and they're really funny. I feel like I can just speak with them and just have a good time besides just playing League. And like when we do things like review and when we take it seriously, everyone's willing to take accountability for their mistakes and for their gameplay and etc. And I feel like it's a good environment.
We are a relatively rookie team, but we bring a little bit of spiciness, a couple spectrum picks. You know, we're a team that can pop off quite easily, but we're also a team that can hard int as well. Like I would say we're a pretty fearless team. We kind of just go in as a team. It's just a chill team that likes to int every now and then. I think jungle position in general is one of the most verbal throughout the entirety of the game, but especially the first 15 minutes. So I definitely hold myself responsible for the flow of communication and making sure everyone's on the right track with like what we're doing and what we're playing for throughout the game. And that's on stage, in scrims. Yeah, I would be the leader of this team.
I think if we can actually learn a lot, we can actually do quite well. I think a lot of teams are a lot more mortal than they actually seem. If we can take down a win from at least one of them in split one, I think that's really good signs for maybe coming up to split two. I think we have actually a pretty good chance, more than anyone thinks. I don't think we have a single way to play, so I think we're still trying to figure that out. But I think once we figure that out, we'll actually be able to take down some pretty good teams and hopefully come at least top 3, top 4.
But we are a super fresh team. We have so much to learn. Scrims are extremely productive at the moment. So I definitely aspire to be finishing split one first or second. I would feel like I've failed my team if I can't lead this team to a finals.
There you have it. Good to hear straight from the source that only the leader is looking to lead Kanga to that dub. And it seems, not only do they watch anime together, but they try to do everything together. And it doesn't feel like there's any ego on any of the individuals on the team. The fact that they all have the accountability to own up to their mistakes, to know what they've done wrong, that is a solid building block for this team to make it far.
Yeah, 100% is. And I mean, for Kanga, it's the hunger to improve that I think does exist on these guys. And it's, for us as outsiders looking at them, it's do they have that winning voice? And I, again, come back to Only and say that he really can be that. And I think that for Only, just as a quick tangent, the man's had a really tragic career and that I think he's better than his results have ever shown. So I really do hope that he continues to find success and doesn't retire into nothingness to come back and then not find it again, right? We want to see him succeed.
Well, to succeed, you need stats. And fortunately, we have some here for Only, up against Kevy, the head-to-head that you guys have been waiting for, the jungle lane matchup. Skimmy, tell me what the numbers mean and why either of them are good or better at something or the other.
Well, I think it's quite exciting because if you date your minds back to late last year, that was the playoffs against these two, right? It was Direwolves up against Order at that time, and I felt like in that series, Only actually had the better hand of Kevy. You sort of think about what are the champions that Only's going to be looking to go for, probably the Xin, the Lead, or the Viego. Hotly contested picks. Kevy certainly isn't afraid to play those, maybe a little bit more carry-oriented on his style, but I feel like Only has that leadership quality that sort of showcases that I have been playing this game a little bit longer. You can look at some of the stats, and you'll see that, average damage share for the most part, actually, which is surprising to me, is in favor of Only. I mean, I look at Kevy and think, he's going to have those quirky champions, Tilia, Evelyn, to say the least, that are going to look to try and upset the apple cart. But for the most part, I think the biggest strength that I've seen in the last 2 years, this one including from Only, is the fact that he's strong individually, but he's able to try and find areas of the map where he can get the rest of his team online. We saw it last year with him helping out Claire. We're seeing it this year as well with Lived.
And I'm just going to throw this out there real quick, Mac. The average wards placed being double for Kevy. He's got 2 Lee Sin games. So let's not look at that stat. He's just placing on the ward hop, everyone. It's definitely not a massive ward difference in what they're actually placing. Just thought I'd throw that one out there.
Very good. Now, making sure that everyone knows who is actually using the wards for vision, more so than just jumping across walls and getting kills. I guess we'll see if that trend continues, if there's going to be more Lee Sin action for Kevy going into this week. But, of course, we have an interview. And fortunately, I believe we're going to be talking to those two that you saw on your screen. And the person talking to them is Kitty. So let's bring her back in. How are you feeling for week 2, Kitty?
So I'm excited, and talking about pink wards, I'm your average pink ward enjoyer. And I believe Kevy is too, so let's grab both the junglers from the teams into the interview. So, hey guys, starting off with Kevy, you guys did end 1-1 in your first week. How are you feeling?
Pretty good, the chase game was quite close. I think there were some draft problems, but it was kind of a one-off, I think from this point on we'll play a lot better and have better drafts.
I mean, you'll improve as the split goes along. So my next question is also about last week's draft. You guys did pick Lee Sin twice when you were previously known for being a heavy resource jungler, being champions such as Diana, Viego, Karthus, Graves. What's with the sudden change to an early game carry?
You know, I just like to show everyone I can like play multiple different styles. I would like to, you know, spice it up a bit. I don't really want to play a third game of Lee Sin today, but yeah.
Well, hopefully Order doesn't draft you a third time of Lee Sin. But talking about the game tonight, you guys are going up against Kanga tonight. So who's going to be the main threat? We saw a pretty stable performance from both Only and Limaz.
You know, probably like everyone. I mean, I want to pick something spicy today, so we'll see what we have planned.
Well, I'm excited, but I hope Only is also excited because you being the longest player, you being the player with the longest experience in competitive on Kanga, and you did mention in the previous video that you are stepping up to be a leader for the team. Did that put any extra pressure on you when you guys lost against PGG last week?
I mean, yeah, I hold myself to like a high standard, and I definitely take responsibility for when we lose. I was gonna say I take responsibility for when we win, but like maybe not true. Like if one of my teammates pops off and like I'm still inting, like I'll let them have that and enjoy that moment. But for our losses and, you know, poor macro and stuff like that, I definitely take full responsibility for my team in that regard, and I think that's a part of adapting and, like, you know, stepping into that leadership role. I was slowly transitioning into this role last year, but now this year, that's definitely the position that I have now. So, I mean, you know, 1-1 is better than 0-2, but it's also not as good as 2-0. So, like, I'm not, you know, ecstatic or like super happy that we're 1-1, but definitely, you know, a decent start. And if Kevy's going to whip out like a spicy pick, I don't know, like what, Evelyn, Kane. I was going to say Diana, but maybe that's not too spicy now. But like Evelyn, Kane, that sounds exciting. And I hope we can create some kind of fiesta and come out on top. So.
Yeah, and talking about you being the leader of the team, you seem to always pick some carry champions such as Xin Zhao and Viego, I believe. So are you also the carry of the team?
I think everyone can carry like when they want to. I mean, Xin Zhao win now. The champ's just broken. Like the jungle meta, Xin Zhao, Viego, Lee Sin. These are just like really solid champs that can like fit into a lot of slots and roles. I wouldn't say I'm like strictly a carry player. Like, don't get me wrong. If there's a Trundle angle, like maybe I'll look for it. Like I'm always down to play tanks and stuff, but I just don't think they're like too strong compared to Xin Zhao and stuff like that are just like pretty much always relevant no matter what. Maybe I'm giving too much information about how I view the game, but I can play both styles is what I'm trying to say. I like to think over the years I've become like a flexible player, but definitely earlier in my career I loved Nidalee, I loved Kindred and Karthus and these like hard carry picks, but nowadays I can mix it up for you guys and give you both.
Well, I'm excited to see what goes on down at the Rift tonight between your match, and best of luck, and let's head back to Mac. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good to see them as always. And I want to know if we've got Only with a big brain bait saying like, oh yeah, you know, Zin's just way too strong to not play right now, but just trying to fish, you know, quick, get a ban out there. Who knows? Who bloody knows? But of course, great to get that little bit of insight as well. I feel like, you know, in that matchup, I'm such an Only fan from like last year. Every time he's on those interviews, he's just so humble and so well spoken. But then you got Kevy, who just seems like this anti-hero, and you just, you always kind of like bat for the underdog, or not even, it's not the underdog, you bat for the anti-hero. You kind of want them to win a lot of the time. They just got like that dark, bloody anime thing going on, even though Kanga's the anime team, of course. But of course, we do have predictions to jump on into as well. So Skimmy, why don't you tell me who you've opted to go for this week, and why is it the same as mine?
Yeah, well, I was surprised. I was wondering if anybody was going to hedge a bet for Kanga. I've just gone for Order here because I just feel like they have a little bit more, what's the word, refinement perhaps at this stage of the game. They look to be a little bit cleaner above in pretty much every role at this stage. You'd see that the star power is there. You'd see that the cohesion seems to be there. I think game 1 against Chiefs, it looked a little bit shaky, but there was still enough of a push to, push Chiefs all the way. Yeah, I think they've got a lot more diversity at this stage, and I think if you heard from the interview where Oli mentioned, Kanga still need a bit of time, despite them having a lot of experience on their roster. They need a bit more time to gel, a bit more time to find exactly what works for them. I think at this stage, Order should take it.
Okay, I'd love to hear Rusty's opinion, but the man says he doesn't like talking anymore, so I'm going to let you just talk about it in Champ Select once we get there. Kitty, tell me why you've gone with Order.
So, basically, I believe the Starry Boys are going to beat Skippy the Kangaroo tonight. They do have a more solid roster, in my opinion, in terms of synergy and how they performed last week. So, maybe Kanga will improve throughout the weeks, but not for week 2.
Okay, so I feel like Kanga definitely are in this with a shot in this game. And it's closer than what our predictions look. We've just all gone with the way of Order because I guess we all feel a similar way about it. Now, I reckon, what's the difference going to be here? Because, look, Chungy, he's the man that isn't watching anime on Kanga. Is he going to be the weak point? Will he be exploited this game, Rusty?
Oh, we want to talk about it. Okay. The difference that I would say is primarily the bot side. Back if I was to compare both teams, I think that Puma and Corporal are just going to be able to outclass Limas and Linnell fairly successfully this early into the first split of the season, right? And the major point for me is that I think Kanga don't know what their style is yet. They just said as much, Mac, where I think Order have multiple styles, and that's a pretty distinct advantage coming into a BO1.
Okay, so a bit of variation and changing things up. We've already seen them play multiple different roles, multiple different team comps for the first couple of days of gameplay. Are we going to see something different going into Game 3? Not too sure just yet. Skimmy, tell me what champs are going to be coming into this game. You can tell me that because Champ Select is ready. So we're jumping in.
Oh, fantastic.
We'll see you after the game.
Beautiful segue there, Mac. As clean as they come as we load up into week 2 and get to see what these teams decide on patch 12.2. Let's look at some of these bans. No surprises once again. Caitlyn receives the 9th ban, has not had a single game to play so far.
Yeah, Caitlyn not allowed. Twisted Fate actually going to get banned this time as well. It's one of Chungy's most proficient champions. So I like that. Considering that it's not seen really from any other team so far in the LCO, I think that's really important. Senna, like we spoke about before, being on patch 12.2, I'm not going to say I'm shocked that that one gets immediately locked in. The other ban is the Corki. I think that's a big one, right? You've not only banned the Tryndamere on Kanga's side, which is a mid or top ban, but I would say probably mid. Kisei definitely going to be a demon on that one. But the Corki goes as well, which really does chop down the mid champion pool into a lot less effective champs. Chungy's got a weird, diverse pool, if that makes sense, right? He's got his Akali, his Ahri, like he'll play a bunch of different things. I'm expecting more of the LeBlanc angle from Kisei. I really want to see more LeBlanc in the LC.
Yeah, I'd imagine Kisei's going to stick to his guns, which sort of made him such a feared rookie last split, right? That he was very aggressive. He was looking to try and be a bit of a lane bully, whereas Chungy played much more of a, I can play the enchanters, I can play the carries, I've got the utility, I can go global if we need that to help these other lanes out. The Corki, as you say, just feels a little bit too good, doesn't it? If it does get left up, you just have to take it. You're actually kind of griefing if you don't. My big question mark has to be about the Senna, because if we look globally, the majority of the games have made it a Senna carry. That is a Senna that is actively farming compared to the Senna that would be fasting. So maybe that is the question mark. And there is that pocket pick, right? That is the Evelyn that Kevy is known for.
Well, listen, Kevy said, I don't want any more Lee Sin. I only said, job's done. We'll lock that one in for you real quick. And Kevy, what you would say, right, is if you look at this jungle 1v1, oftentimes you would say Lee Sin has a pretty good measure of Evelyn as a champion, right? Very good skirmisher, can reveal by hitting the Q also. It's not like a Rek'Sai, like Tremor Sense counter, but does decently well. So definitely looking to punish perhaps the Jinx, which is why Thresh is an immediate option instead of something like the Lulu for Lionel. We'll see how the rest of the game starts to pan out though, because it is a Renekton that you would say is flexible, but probably just Biopanther with a magic damage dealing jungler. So Kisei can have the time of his life through these 4-5 picks and bans, right, to see what he wants to actually play. He will have to blind pick it, however, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some mid bans perhaps. Pick. if that's where they're going to go. Otherwise, it'll just be a support fourth and they'll hide.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they put some bans to make Kislei's life easier. As I said, he definitely wants to be the one that finds himself a very strong lead. I feel like those games that they had, especially the game against Chiefs, he was the only one actually in that game who was really fed at all to try and do any form of damage. You know, to try and keep that Corki from getting out of control very early on. The Grag's going to be removed. The Tom Kinch is also an interesting one. I suppose it feels almost a necessity, given that Kanga revealed their bot lane and they don't have double range to try and really punish it, so it's forced.
What's the fact that Senna's locked in, right? You have to get rid of the Tom
Oh, for sure.
You have to get rid of one of those bottom lane duos, and if you are looking for a starving Senna, then yeah, a lot of options need to be considered here. And the Aurelia ban also is a really nice one from Kanga's side to take it away from Pisse again. So what we're seeing with the Gragas ban is more of like Renekton gets completely stopped almost by Gragas. It's a full diffusal lane. And they're also just going to get rid of magic damage dealing champions from the top side of the map. So perhaps they've got an idea that Chungy's up to no good in mid with his champion pool. Perhaps there's something spicy there and they're trying to force him back into just like a Victor. Like just pick a control mage that we can handle as an Evelyn and we can actually make 0-5 with like a winning mid matchup. Yeah,
He's going to leave it to the last second, isn't he? Here comes the Ornn once again. That's what Liv played last time, as you praised, and gave so much emphasis on them winning those trades and those skirmishes and that late game insurance also, which is going to go toe-to-toe with the center farming up those souls. What will Order decide to go for here? They've definitely got the early aggression, the mid-jungle that you would imagine could still be flexed around. Leona there, now being hovered. Very strong champion, isn't it? Certainly feels like the one that just allows you to pretty much do anything you so desire and just completely guarantee lane control.
Yeah, Leona's really good. It just means that the center should be the one farming no matter what, right? So it reveals that. Leona doesn't need gold, doesn't really need those extra stats. She has enough of it in her base kit.
Yeah.
Just looking towards mid lane as the final pick you would expect. But we highlighted that the Renekton is flexible, but so is the set, Skimmy.
Yes.
And so we don't really know. You could say Renekton's top lane, it should have decent push and priority against an Ornn, and it's just a blind set mid, but that could also change depending on the last pick here of Kanga. What that does provide... Okay.
Veigar received a nice little buff here on 12-2, right? The Q, the Bale Strike, is more stacks, more damage, more emphasis, really, to be an absolute pest. I suppose, if anything, this is a defense of mid lane. Very hard for you to try and siege up against.
Sort of, yeah, right. I feel like Kanga have just built a composition. Like, their comp is really good, right? In a vacuum, it's a good front to back. You've got melee tank champions. You've got disengage from a Thresh, from a Lee Sin. You've got mobility from those two as well to help the non-mobile champions of a Veigar and a Jinx. You've also got short range, mid range, and long range as a composition. So their front to back 5v5 team fighting, you would say on Kanga's side, is exceptional. They also have the possibility of pick with the Lee Sin, with the Thresh, and with a baby cage coming out of the Veigar there. In saying that, Veigar has put himself into a volatile matchup no matter which way it goes, right?
Yeah.
Set mid, X Flash even potentially there, but like Flash hit the face breaker, and then you've got an Evelyn on you, right? Renekton's the exact same. So this may just be like cleanse of necessity for Chungy, which kind of hurts a champion that may want that teleport to actually continue to stay in lane as mana cost can be higher.
Certainly can, but I tell you what, if that interview was anything to go by, they said they wanted something spicy. They've certainly given us something spicy, and welcomed in a brand new patch with a lot of the champions that received the benefits, received the buffs, and for good reason too. Very curious to see what kind of build we get here from this Veigar. We have seen overseas in the LEC, for instance, they've been running a Predator variation of this Veigar compared to, say, the Arcane Comet you might see more commonly in a solo queue game, but for certain, Everfrost Mythic is going to have its work cut out for him to make sure that it can look to try and prevent the Order team from collapsing and making his life a bit of a nightmare.
There's definitely a lot of snowball potential on the side of Order here as well, right? Because they've just got a fridge composition, just a bunch of meatballs just running at you, and the meatball composition can be dangerous if it's ahead, or it's actually just meatballs if they're behind, right? And there's enough damage on the Kanga side to actually pick that one apart, and the scaling coming out of them is pretty high. So I'd say a lot on the line early here, Skimmy, as we jump into the first game.
We certainly do. Jumping into the first game of week 2 here in the LCO, as both teams currently tied at third, 1-1. look to try and break that deadlock. And as we get ourselves into this one, it's also another chance to talk and get some insight from one of the coaches. I do believe we actually have Coach Drac on the line. There he is. Fantastic. Coach Drac here of Kanga. How are you going?
Very well, thank you. Been a busy week.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear. Nice and sweet. What did you really make of your guys' performance in week number 1, and how are you finding it on a brand new patch?
Look, we know we have a lot to work on, but we were happy to get a win on the board, especially given they got 2 really tough matches this week. And as for the new patch, well, like everyone else, we're kind of just glad to have Chemtrek back to sleeping in its lair so that we don't have to worry about it fogging up the rift, making life interesting. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I can obviously see a few of those spicy picks. Anything to mention about this Veigar?
Well, when the opposition has a bunch of meatballs that want to run at you, Veigar Cage is pretty unique in its ability to hopefully create some zone control, so we're hoping that that'll pay off for us.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, best of luck for you boys, and we'll crack on.
Thank you. Good luck.
A meatball cage. There
It's
you go.
good that meatball is a universal term now, isn't it?
It's so good.
It really is just a bunch of meatballs that are going to be running at Kanga. He's right? Short-range champions into Veigar, it is a nightmare. In saying that, we'll see a small trade bottom right now and show of hand that it's Glacial and Flayfulino, which is fine into the matchup. Mid lane doesn't have the cleanse into the Evelyn and Renekton, so it is volatile 100%. It is going to be the teleport, but it's also Predator, Skimmy. So my man's is going to be running.
That was my question, right? What were we going to see? Variations between pro and solo queue. Cooper once again looking to try and really wrestle this bot lane brush, but he's copping a fair beating as a result. Has opted for the aftershock, so wants to be tanky, but needs to hit level 2.
Yeah, a lot of that lane is... I feel like we say this every time we see Thresh versus Leona, but it's pretty unplayable for Leona until level 6, really. I like the idea of sitting in the bush, starting with the Q, maybe force a positive trade, but it wasn't, so it kind of goes even worse down that rabbit hole. We'll be fine. We'll just have to use the potions and play back. And Puma's got the fleet footwork, has the Q for sustain as well as 3 potions himself with that longsword. So at the end of the day, when you actually stock take that trade bottom, you would say that was very winning for Order just by potion diff right now. There are still 2 potions there for Puma, and there's none for Limas, and we're level 2.
He's going to be careful now, doesn't he? Because that wave is coming into a bit of a comfortable spot if they can hold it here. Jungler's in the area, and as you can see, only looking to work his way towards with double buffs to potentially keep up tempo here with Kevy. I was really curious also about the build for the center. Fleet footwork seems to be the go-to for the sustain. We have seen a first strike variation as well, which you know, just gives you a whole bunch of range. Couple that with a rapid fire cannon, and you are obliterating people from halfway across the map. It's not to be the case here. Invade goes out, only trying to keep tabs. I think he may have just missed.
Not going to find the Evelyn. It was pinged at Krugs, I believe. So either way, he knows that the Krugs are cleared. So, you know, by process of elimination, they know that Evelyn's going to be resetting to the top side of the map. And so it is going to be the Ornn, as you saw, that just goes toward the tri-bush straight away. So pretty aware of what's going on here at both teams, realistically. You'll see some resets now come through from the bottom side of the map. And just quickly looking at these runes as well, I was most curious as to what Senna had as her secondaries, because you could go for like approach velocity if you wanted, right, Skimmy?
Sure.
If the Q slows them down, you're guaranteed to get a second auto attack off. But because you've got fleet and the slow from the Q, instead of tripling down, you can go for more of a scaling option, which is where he's chosen to go now. So the longer this game goes, more damage that Senna will be putting out.
I know it's always been a huge conversation online about trying to get 80 carries out of that inspiration tree, right, for the 3 boots and the cookie, and say, just give them some late game damage, just play to scaling, here it is.
Yeah, definitely is going to be something that they want as well. So if you give them that option, no doubt an 80 carry will be as greedy as possible to try and find that one. And so we do honestly find ourselves with a pretty slow early game. I think that's worth pointing out just because jungle champions feel a little bit different here, right? One's an Evelyn. Wants to hit level 6, you might sneak a gank in before it if you're lucky with doubles. But generally just hard farms and full clears to level 6 and then starts to get really active on the map. Lee Sin is just a cannonball, can go at any time, right? And is always dangerous. So definitely something to keep your eyes on.
Keep my eyes also in this mid lane as well to see how Kise tries to navigate things and how Chungi prevents the all-in, the collapse and the potential jungler gank. At level 6, once Kevy does become invisible and that much harder to track, there's always an interesting conversation, right, about how much of an emphasis it puts then on good vision, on ward placement, and tracking, how it almost completely changes the game plan just from one single champion being in the game.
Yeah, it's so much more than good vision as well, right? Nice little E in bottom.
Oh, that's a perfect CC sequence right there. You jump in with the Zenith Blade, you couple that with a center root, and you're saying, you need to burn a flash. And there it is, gone.
Yeah, that's it, right? Corporal with the perfect punish. If the Thresh is mispositioned, if he doesn't have the Flay actively ready to disengage, Leona can actually follow up the Zenith Blade with a Q. And would you believe it, that trade is massively winning. And just beyond that as well, if Puma's ready, even if the Flay is perfect, the W root will come down and suddenly the combo is still there. So that's a really nice trade from both Corporal and Puma. Just communicating in bottom lane, right? Showing their mastery as a new bottom lane still together. Unable to really pick apart bottom. And like we mentioned, Skimmy, that pot difference in bottom has now started to build into a bit of a CS lead. They'll get most of that back, however, as this wave will be caught just in time by Limas, but the flash missing is still a hefty price.
Yeah, so it could be a big deal once level 6 comes on through. Yes, there is still the cleanse there, but the full cycling, I mean, what, you got 3 CC abilities from the Leona alone. You can't cleanse it all. It's going to be a bit of a nuisance here as that Drake is up, and no teams right now seem to be too interested, but only has guaranteed at least they've got the vision.
Yeah, getting that scuttle, there was no priority in bottom lane really to help there. So Only's just going to snake that one. You could see immediately tries to ward hop his way out. He knows while he has the bottom lane there with priority, the mid jungle were pretty scary. And this is the first real move, it feels like. You can see it on my way pings as well from Kanga. They want to try and stop this red from being taken. But the timing, I think, is just a little bit too clean here by Order. And so the Scuttle Crab actually has quite a large price, you would say, in that an entire red buff gets taken away. So it's still well played by Order on the flip. And you can just see, you know, some frustration from the fact that the lane states, both top and mid, they were pushed. And they don't really want to have to sacrifice that farm to try and potentially flip a red buff steal. Doesn't feel like life is getting any easier for Liv in this lane. He's copping a fair bit of a beating. We saw that one trade initially that worked in his favor, but then the Conqueror coming on through by Pemba, stacking things up quite nicely and finding himself in a familiar situation. This one looks to be close. 51% of you think that Order are going to take things out, and we'll see if they can as they go for another engage. 3-6 in the bot lane. There's the hook to try and turn things around. Lionel not going to be committing to that, but at least saying no more. Yeah, and still any trade that goes even, you would say, is favorable for the Order 2v2. But still nicely matched at the very least by Lionel and Limas. Corporal intentionally tanking that hook just so Puma can get another auto attack in as well. The signs of a true support main down there. And is now going to have a look perhaps for the flash engage, but it all depends on if he hits level 6 or not. You know that Puma has. Don't know if Corporal's that close just yet. Still waiting for those junglers to get on the board here, Skimmy. Kevy is 6 and so is Only, so objectives will be taken. This will be really nice, but that mid-threat, right? That Renekton pick is usually picked for a purpose, and that is because you have the Evelyn that can couple with it. You can hit the CC chain, you can one-hit the enemy mid laner. They ban AP tops to force this, and they want to look, but can they actually get it done?
Yeah, can they find the avenue in which the charm will find its success? Off screen, we see the first blood. There is no level 6. There was no flash burn. It was simply an ignite and an all-in. No doubt we'll get a replay in a second as we're still looking towards this mid lane. Only has the inside track. Oh, going to miss the Sonic Wave. Now there's the Sonic Flare. Oh, and the Zenith Blade flashed away. That was burnt here by Only. Corporal also jumping across. The blast cone's not good enough. And at the 9-minute mark, Order get 2. They're going to get a crab and potentially steal more.
Yeah, Only may be looking for this, but Kevy still with the ultimate in hand should have the tools to disengage, but they are going to try and really pressure this blue buff. I think a reset there is a win for the side of Kanga. That means the blue buff is effectively theirs. Kevy lost his window, but the Scuttle Crab on the disengage will be nice, and that's also a Jinx ultimate used to stop a reset. So Kanga are playing the tempo game here, where it feels like Order just, look, they saw their opportunity, they took their opportunity. We'll look bottom here as well, because the Flay was used to set up the pick onto Puma. The Flay not being available means that the full combo is there from a Leona. The Ignite goes down. Easy as you'd like, Skimmy. That is a glacial Thresh, not someone who has an Aftershock and can survive that burn.
Yeah, even with Exhaust, it wasn't enough, and Limas unable to really answer back onto that focal target, which was Puma. He goes into the shadows, and, well, as easy as you like. Order back to the scene of the crime. Looking to reassert vision control once more. And abuse the fact that they will have that stamina advantage. Limus will have that flash up very shortly. But both the junglers will not. So will we see any action for one of these objectives anytime soon?
Wouldn't be surprised to see Corporal just use his ultimate off cooldown just because there's no cleanse there from Lee Massey. If he forced a flash, that's still a huge dub. Kevi doing this basically on vision for what it's worth, just looking at how they respond. However, Kanga have absolutely zero to provide for the defense of this objective. That is simply just going to be going their way. Things that are going well here for Kanga though, Skimmy. That mid lane has, what is a 10 CS difference, but that is still a very winning situation for a Veigar, right? Into an Evelynn and a Renekton. The fact that you've gone even for this long. Constant kill threat still exists. But so far, so good. And it is the Merc trades that have been rushed by Chungi as well. So definitely afraid of the stun combo. The faster you can get out of that Renekton W, the faster you can run away from the Evelynn, who has to wait a little bit for that follow-up on the chain seize.
I'm sure he's very happy that he hasn't been visited in the mid lane too much, hasn't been camped, hasn't really been under too much pressure, was able to farm up a Storm to his own individual safety standards. It is all things ordered though in the bot lane as out goes the CC chain again. Puma picks up his first kill of the game. And Order just have so much to be thankful for. They've got the Herald, they've got the Drake, they've now got an open bot lane to push and to summon. And this is a lot of plate gold going their way.
And that is a really early Herald summon, but I think it's just because they had the 4-man pressure there and they wanted to get that out before any response was available from Kanga. This doesn't actually indicate that the whole turret's going to go. They're really just after a few plates from the looks of it. But it's the pressure, right? They know the Thresh is just now coming back onto the map and can maybe help defend the turret. But until such a time, the monetary values that they have on the side of Order is huge, right? The lead grows, their tempo, their control over the map is growing as well. And even though Chungi is happily scaling, Kisei was still the one with priority, right? He was still the 4th man down there that made that extra little bit of difference for Order beyond just the...
It feels like the battle of the scaling. You know, who's got the more souls, who's got the more stacks? It's a bit of a 1v1 between this Senna and a Veigar. Is there a preference that you'd have? I mean, I love Senna. I'm a big fan of the Senna, but I mean, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing a Veigar just hit ult, type in all chat, outplayed.
I don't know just who he can do that to in this game besides the Senna though, right? It's so hard to, like, it's so good, and this is what I meant through the draft phase, Kimmy. I like Kanga's composition. I like the concept of a Veigar into a short-ranged comp as well, because the stuns will be value, but they're falling behind, and so those meatballs can take a punch. And so can that Veigar actually effectively one-hit someone without, like, hyper-scaling is the question.
Well, currently no, but there will reach a point in the time once that mythic is complete, the tier fully stacked and individually. Can certainly say there's a stun. Let's look to try and answer back.
It's just that everyone has an answer, right? Like, Set has W, Renekton has ult, but Evelynn can ult to cancel animations as well. Leona has a W, and Senna has cleanse. So, not the easiest game to play if you're walking at Order. If Order's walking at you, then there's an angle. I think that's the way that you have to play this one out, but so far Order are walking at them, and it's pretty successful.
So much vision control, look at this. Only looking to make his play. Oh no, oh no! The kick has happened, but it's gone the wrong way.
Honestly, I think that was a vision diff. Like, if we watched that back as a replay with just Kanga's vision, I think he flashed lost vision because of the bush, because the ward died. And so he couldn't hit the kick. Really sad.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate.
So unlucky.
That looked like their first major move to try and answer back here, because the map so early on really has been run here by Kevi. He's been able to free roam and do whatever he likes, and this is looking to be the second Herald going their way.
And it's going to be uncontested as well, right? You're looking at Drake for Kanga. I think second Drake is definitely something that's worth contesting because it'll slow down any kind of snowball in an objective sense. So they're going to try and get some vision around here. However, see this first. So we missed it.
We will not see it.
Maybe we'll get it again.
Maybe the observers are just being nice to say we don't need to see that again. What do we actually had a clip of this last year, didn't we? Of only failing a flash, and he got really embarrassed about it in the post-game interview. Where was it? It was like top lane. Top lane between the tier 2 turret and going into the walls. I'm pretty sure if my memory serves me well.
Geez, that's niche. I do not recall that exact moment.
I mean, it was a crazy flash and he failed it, and I think he sort of just stood on the spot for a second, emote spammed, and yeah, he wasn't too chuffed with himself in that post-game interview, but no very different circumstances. New year, new me. Hopefully, could find the angle that they so desperately need here. As they're down 2 Drakes so far, what is the rift going to become? Well, it's all about sustain.
The Oceanic one, definitely going to be a big deal for any composition that has 4 tanks, or 3 tanks.
Uh-oh.
Nice.
Oh no, the full all-in collapse! You can't play, you couldn't dash, you couldn't flash, it was on cooldown. Now he's down for 20 seconds.
It's starting to look a little bit too easy here for the side of Order, right? Their vision control. They're working with the Evelyn so nicely. Corporal's finding angles time after time. And they're just continuing to get further and further ahead. We are waiting to see something from Kanga, right?
Yeah.
So far, they don't have a single thing in this game. Not a single thing. Not what we expected, but at the same time, we know that Kanga are developing, they're learning, and that Order have strategic depth already. So.
They're looking to try and cop a bit of damage his way. Order flash away from R2. Quarter of the Forge Gold will not be successful. Corporal taps the Ignite and realizes maybe the dive is not really on the cards here. Biting off more than we can chew, already guaranteeing a top tier 1. But hang on a minute. Lionel might be punished as a result. The route goes down. Oh!
Close.
Very close there from Bio.
If that hits, you could potentially flash ult Bio, rather Lionel back to your team. So it could have been a little pick there for Order. There was also a flash used by Corporal just off the screen to actually try and find Lived. I think he mistimes it just by a little bit. But either way, doesn't find it. So Order will just disengage. But they will continue to disengage winners with a massive gold advantage 17 minutes in, just by playing good, solid A through Z League of Legends right now. We're getting some tutorial gameplay from them on how to get a lead. And now we just need to see them transition this into potentially the Baron, potentially the Ocean Soul, and see if this lead can be much more meaningful than just the gold that they have right now. Already showing up in items, I will say as well, right? 2 big items actually already for Puma. One of them being a rapid fire cannon. So definitely wants that extra range, it feels like, but I wouldn't say it's the most commonly seen item. However, with the Kraken Slayer build, as long as you've got the Zeal item there, you're pretty happy.
It feels so good, Dominant Center, much like a Jhin, right?
Yeah.
Just the quality of life to be able to one-tap somebody across the screen, be a little bit cheeky, drop a ward and extend it even further. With the Piercing Darkness, right? You can just be an absolute menace halfway across the screen, and
yeah,
you'll be hoping.
It's especially for the for fleet footwork for the first auto attack in a skirmish, right? It's movement speed and actually helps you close the gap. If the Q hits, right, same thing. So
sure,
it is good. Definitely with their Kraken build. And look at the control ward vision that you're seeing from Order here.
Only going in, Kevy instantly ulting away to disengage to safety. We're really looking to try and control that top half of the map. Order don't want to entertain things just yet. They got a sizable gold lead. And it almost feels like, Rusty, you know, we're in a kind of conversation space of looking like at a Kassadin, at a Kale, like, oh, just buy time. Level 16 comes on through, stay competitive, stay close. Anything lower than a 10k lead and it's winnable. And it feels the case of, you know, you've got an Ornn. There's going to be some ornaments coming out. There's going to be the Veigar that's going to have all these stacks. The Jinx, if positioned well, a couple of items. Gets excited. Very different story.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there is always a world for the Kanga composition to find their way into this one, right? You've got the Kraken Slayer, so yes, there is a get excited angle. You've also got the ornaments. So there's still hope, but so far it's a perfect game from Order. Waiting to see what's next for them. That first move from Kanga into their own red side jungle didn't actually even give them vision control. Now Corporal's going to step up and clear vision away. They are just staunching.
Yep. Only looking to try and get himself into the river, get the rest of the boys in here too. Next Drake is up in 50 seconds as the Baron spawns on the opposite end of the map, and that is where Biopanther finds himself now. He's got an Unleashed teleport, he is split pushing, he's got a wave unanswered. And unless Kanga really force the situation, that tier 2's falling.
Yeah, but listen, why go to the fight if you're Order, right? You do just play for that tier 2. You also consider the inner turret in mid lane if Kanga aren't careful. Kevy definitely playing with fire, positionally speaking, is between a turret and an enemy champion, but he's towed the line and has the impossible flank angle.
Wow.
And he's on.
He's on for Chungy. Everfrost doesn't connect, but there's a Q. And Esley down to 50% already.
But look at Biopanther. So all of this to say he's buying time. Kisei, even if he dies here, is continuing to buy time.
For sure.
And may intentionally feed to do so. Bio is literally hitting the inhibitor turret as we speak. This Drake force is so off-tempo, Kanga's best course of action. Maybe it isn't to fight, but Order want it.
Well, here comes the TP now. Biopanther deciding it's time to fight. Exhaust goes out into Kissa, who's got the Dominus Sector, swinging things around and sustaining so much so that Lionel falls on down. And that is the Slam Jam wombo that Juves would have been proud of, that takes out Liv 2, down for 35 seconds. And Chungy, with those little Yodel legs, is flashing away, but not enough from a 2-tap that a Puma can deliver. Senna is online, and the Battle of the Stacks goes Order's way.
And look at the wave top after all of that. Bio teleports in, the turret falls from the minions that he left up there with him. Wave control supremacy from the top laner of Order. They win the fight, they get the split push. You'll see that fight and how it starts straight out of the gates here. The exhaust, everything goes on to Kisei. They just want to take that Redacted down, but guess what? You don't have heal cut. He presses Q, he presses Gore Drinker, and he's actually back to full health. Fight's over. At that point, the one pick that you wanted is completely gone. You kind of need that heal cut if you're going to go onto a Renekton first, or that exhaust has to be an Ignite, right? Something's got to give Skimmy. That's just not good enough from Kanga.
Yeah, amongst the chaos, like you saw there, he was having the time of his life. You can kick me out, but the damage by that point had already been done. And it just feels a little bit like Kanga a deer in the headlights here. They forced their hand. They said, we need to do something. We're just losing pressure topside where they've opened up their inhibitor now. And quite honestly, Bio was saying, I've done my job. I could go for this one. Is there any need? There is that potential comeback situation where, you know, gold is then just funneled through the top side of the map and gives Kanga that avenue back.
I mean, that's it. Like, strategic diversity there from Order. They realistically could have just taken the inhibitor and called it a day, right? Then you just reset, you play for Baron, you probably still have a significant advantage on the map. They chose the fight. They just said, we are meatballs, right? Like, if they're going to give us a fight at the Drake, why would we say no to what we want? Or no.
One of the Forge Gold goes out, and it hits absolutely nothing. Solarflare turns it around. 2 ults burnt. But everybody left standing. It really is, Rusty. You coined it perfectly. The perfect game. 7 kills to 0. Every objective has gone Order's way so far.
Not even a turret from the side of Kanga yet. They have no split push threat. Their top laner is a tank. Their mid laner is a control mage. They have to group as 5. They kind of have to ARAM if they want to win a game. But they're so far behind that doing that is impossible. Kevy.
He's in trouble. He's put down the cage. Can he turn things around? He tries to go for the one-shot, but he gets one-shot. Evelyn's just a little bit too strong. Limus has no mana. He has to stay in minigun form, but he's outranged. He does not want to entertain this idea much longer. The rest of his team already peeling away towards the top side. And the Baron bait, the Baron dance, we're going back.
And just not enough damage. They can't one-hit Kevy. He gets the flash off. He's able to get the ultimate off there as well. And just last caresses Chungy as he puts him to bed, the former Order member, suffering silently there. Baron down to 2,000. Fights on.
Will they hold things, or will they go for this team fight? They're split decisions right now. Corporal dodging things out there with the stasis effect. Focal point has to be this Jinx, and it's gone. Puma untouched and absolutely unleashed as he finds himself a double kill. Kanga really haven't had a chance to shine in this game, and still searching for this first kill.
They have been beaten at every single level of this game. From the ground up, Order have just torn them apart piece by piece. It is still a perfect game on the cards. We haven't cursed them yet. Corporal with a very clutch stopwatch here as well, I will say. This is all about pushing them back away from the Baron, basically just to secure it. Corporal acknowledges the hook's on. That first kill does not come out. The ultimate's there to confirm with Puma as well. So well played from Order overall, right? They keep 2 people on the Baron. They allocate just enough resources to the fight that they're able to be successful on both avenues at once. And I mean, Limas is trying. He is putting down as much damage as he can. But the size of the fridge standing in front of him is more like a mountain at this point. And it's almost impossible to break through. Still no heal cut, Jimmy. Still no last whisper item yet either.
Yes, I mean, he's running on fumes at this stage, isn't he? He's just completed the Runar's Hurricane. 2 items, you would say, usually. Hey, that's pretty good. But as you say, Lord Dominic's really needs to come in right now because that fridge, I tell you what, it's full. And it's not moving anytime soon.
Hibernation mode about to engage. Ready for winter?
Sure.
And what do you really even do if you're Kanga, right? That's normally the question you'd have to ask me. There's kind of nothing. If Order want to win this game right now by grouping as 5, that's probably the best case scenario for Kanga because they want to be grouped.
Can they find the collapse? Kisei doesn't have flash, it's up very shortly, but they can't connect, they can't collapse, they can't take him down. He's going to sidestep it all. Now popping a Dominus, in they run. Corporal lands the ultimate, and there is the call of the Forge God. It goes the wrong way. It's only gone to Kisei. Steric's gauge is so huge. He swings it around. Oh, the corn trigger was enough. It's a shot that all important. He picks up here by Limas. He dies. He falls on down. Byra is massive. He's got a triple. He has found a triple kill. The Titan in the top lane. 4-0-1. They're going to take down all these inhibitors and march straight towards the Nexus.
And Bio says, I've had enough. I'm getting some kills here. Smacks out an easy triple now, looking towards just ending the game right in the face of the remaining members of Kanga. No response from Elysian or a Thresh. And a clean game. Not a perfect game anymore, Skibby. It was so bloody close. But so clean, nonetheless.
A statement game. A word that we use so often in broadcasting terms. But hey, that really was all about what separates these 2 teams right now in the middle of the pack. You've got experience on both hands. You've got players that are very, very familiar with one another. But Order certainly said we have the star power, we have the ability, the diversity in our picks, our bans, our play styles, and from the very get-go showed no signs of slowing down, no signs of weakness. Clear strategy and executed flawlessly.
And listen, for a 1-1 week 1 from Order, that is a resounding start to week 2. That is a very clean affair that we've just seen from them. They should be super proud of their efforts from that first game. For Kanga, it is definitely a back to the drawing board situation because they didn't even give themselves an avenue of entry. It really felt like from the moment they loaded onto the Rift, they were stuck, right? They were playing for level 6 through the jungle. They just didn't have a window to win the game. Matching top lanes as tanks, Bio's happy, right?
Sure.
Scaling in the jungle, Kevy's having a field day. That's everything you could possibly want. Prio in mid lane, like, they did make it fairly straightforward.
Yeah, pure elation here for Order, but frustration more so than anything, Mac, here for Kanga is, you know, they will be no doubt looking back at that VOD, reviewing it, mulling over the ideas of what we could have done better, and it's going to be a headache for sure.
Yeah, I'm just vibing because we all got our bloody predictions right again, and it seems so simple when we look at it initially, and then we play up the storylines before the game, and I was even thinking like, oh, you know what, Kanga, they could definitely do this, but then it slowly just kept on going further and further in Order's favour, and Kanga, they could not find an answer back in. They really wanted that Ocean Drake, but this was just a pretty much solidifying point of the game as soon as that triple came through. It was just push, dub, and there you bloody have it. And Order, they didn't want to play silly buggers either. They really just wanted to push the point. They knew when they managed to get that triple at the end that the game was all done, all over Red Rover, and they just said, you know what, we can finish it right now, and they did. Kisei, though, of course, throwing away the perfect game, so pretty unfortunate for the man, but of course they got the dub, and that is what really matters at the end of it, Skimmy.
Certainly does, and as I said before, you know, you look at this one, you think, what separates these 2 teams, and I just felt like Order outclassed them ever so slightly at this early stage of the season, and you know, we saw it. I mean, there was a clear idea of, you know, what champions are going to allow us to have strength and agency in the early stages, but what is our late game insurance? And I think even from the get-go in that bot lane where I'm thinking, hang on a minute, Corp was being very aggressive, but Rusty highlighted it fantastically. You know, potion difference really came into effect, and off-screen, you know, they get the kills. So mastery of the champions, pure execution of those matchups, and a very, very convincing 27-minute win.
Now, from all those changes that we saw earlier on with the patch notes here in 12.2, was there anything that stuck out with those changes that made this W happen? Like the center maybe, Rusty?
Yeah, I mean, other than the center priority, there's not too much to talk about. Vega did obviously get some slight buffs on the patch as well, but Chungy's one of those players that would have probably picked it regardless if there was a good angle for it. Yeah, I would say it was mostly a center thing. They played the lane really well. It was clear that they've been practicing with this as well. And even if it is the one patch one day, you've still got to give props to Order for jumping on that one real quick. Other than that, it was just a strategic dub from the side of Order, right? No one even did any damage. Like, the highest damage in the game was really just top laners hitting each other because they're both tanks. Like, there was no one needed to do damage. Order just won so cleanly.
Yeah, I thought there might have been a little bit more competition there in the top lane between Lived and Bio, but it seemed to end up just being one side. Bio, man, was just that class above today. And I believe we might actually get a chat with him because we got Kitty coming in on the side lanes, ready for the post-match interview.
Oh my god, I forgot to unmute my mic. I am so sorry. That is very awkward. Anyways, I've grabbed this set from that game, who is Bio Panther, because he and everyone else had a very perfect game. So let's get into it. Congrats on your win.
Thank you so much.
Week 2, day 1. No worries. That was quite the perfect game. You guys did mention about picking a spicy pick for the jungle. What were the comms like? What was early? How did you guys plan early game?
I think for us, we have just prio lanes and we just played to Evelyn. She was our win condition, she was our solo AP carry, so all we have to do is just play our lanes and not get greedy and just facilitate Evelyn if she wants to take camps, like help her take camps, but other than that, we're just playing around her and then she'll win the game for us, so yeah.
I mean, for the majority of that game, Evelyn did play bot side. Are you happy with Kevy playing towards Puma and Corporal and you just playing the Tinky frontline on set?
Like in the game, I gave him the options to dive top, and there was a lot of opportunities we could have just punished, like Lived. But I feel like it's his decision at the end, and we can review it at the end of like the day, and we'll figure out what is best for our teams. But like I give him the option, and if he wants to go bot, he goes bot.
Yeah, and speaking about Kevy, well, we've been speaking about Kevy this entire interview. What's it like playing with a new jungler who is very well known on the carry champions?
Yeah, he's more so for the carry champions, and he's more so for like the pocket picks that win us the game. So like he's more like, he's less team facilitator, but like he's more just like solo carry, so it's really good for our team, and it gives us options. I feel like he can play both, and it just gives our team flexibility, and you'll see it in like the next few weeks that we're going to be playing so much. So I think there's a lot to like look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are kind of already forming a team identity from the past 3 games, and once again, congrats on your win from
Thank you so much.
week 2, day 1, and thank you for the interview, Bio.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
So humble. So nice. And it's good that we can now hear you, Kitty. So it was a great interview. And I'm glad that Bio managed to absolutely smash it out of the park today. Not only in the Rift, but also in the interview. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't the player of the game, and I believe we all know who it is, so I'm not going to ask. Let's just throw it up. It was the big man in the bot lane. It was Puma putting in work with the center, having a good time and dishing out a huge amount of damage. 76% kill participation is pretty damn good. His spacing in the fights and ability just to kite around, keep himself out of harm's way and keep himself untouched all damn game. 4-0-6, Skimmy. It's a good looking score.
It's certainly a really good looking score, isn't it? There's nothing better than when you play a Senate and you're just not touched. You're just beaming people from across the map and saying, I'm getting more stacks. Each time we scrap, I'm taking more souls. I'm getting stronger. I'm beating you now. I'll beat you later. Puma, I mean, he was an absolute front runner for that top 3 discussion of AD Carry's last split. And certainly putting in a very strong performance to start off things here as well.
Now, Rusty, I'm looking at 10 wards placed. Is that enough for a center in the bot lane?
I mean, it depends on the type of center you're going to get. And I will say that I think Puma played very well, and I know that you mentioned this as well, Kitty, but it definitely felt like it was a full bot lane gap going on there, right? Corporal had a very good Leona game himself, so it was definitely, while it goes to Puma, it should go to the entire bottom lane for how well they played.
Very true. So shout outs to Corporal for his part of the puzzle, of course. Now, Kitty, anything you noticed in particular that game that you want to talk about now you're back on the desk?
Well, obviously, Kevy picked Evelyn. It's probably going to be the one time we're ever going to see... Maybe Kevy's going to pick in the future, but it's probably going to be one of the very few times we're going to see Evelyn, and it had such a good game. I don't know if it was just because Kanga had a rough game, or if it was Order being obviously better throughout... How do I word this? So they're obviously improved from week 1 to week 2. So I am excited to see what Kevy has more for installed.
Okay, but that slow but sure evolution. It's steady, and something that's not steady is you guys in chat. You didn't make any memes for us. We asked you to send them in. There was some crazy things going on there, so pretty please. We're going to a break very shortly. Make sure you get those memes in. Hashtag LCO, at LCO on the Twitter sphere, and get in all your good memes. Look, the next game coming up is going to be Direwolves and Peace, and I know that there's a lot of memes that are going to be involved with these two. You know, I think Peace was already throwing out some sneaky little words on Twitter, so maybe play something up there. I'm giving you ideas, so jump on into that, and we're going to go one step closer to match number 2, which is coming up just after this break. Don't go anywhere. Get yourself something to eat. Maybe order Menulog. Who knows? We'll see you after this.
Kanga's best course of action? Maybe it isn't to fight, but Order want it.
Well, here comes the TP now. Viper deciding it's time to fight. Exhaust goes out to Kissa, who's got the Domisaka, swinging things around and sustaining so much so that Lionel falls on down. And that is the slam jam wombo that Juves would have been proud of. That takes out Liv 2 down for 35 seconds. And Chungy with those little yodel legs.
Only there. Baron down to 2,000. Fights on.
Will they hold things?